Hello everyone, welcome to Chaudhary Data Watch channel. Today I am here with a new video on SQL series, that is under TCL commands we are having set constraint. That means we are having concept of constraints. We'll be watching all the details related to constraint into this particular video. In this particular video we are going to cover up how to what are the types of constraint and how to create those constraint. The modification and deletion part we'll be watching into some other video. So let's get started with the video. In this first part of the constraint videos, we are having that what even constraint is. So it is basically used to specify set of rules for the data stored in the table. So suppose if you are having a table, now if in some particular column you want to specify some rule that in this particular column it should only come a unique value into it, or else you want to define some rule that there should no null, it will be accepting when the data is to be fed. So those type of rules we can explicitly define when we are creating the table itself. Those set of rules only is called as constraint. In this particular video we are going to see how to set those rules, and in upcoming videos we will be watching that how we can modify those rules and even how we can delete those rules. So we will first move ahead with this type of constraint, that what are types of constraint, that means what are type of rules which we can apply on the some particular column into a table. So there are basically, for here you can see six type of constraint. That is, first one is not null constraint, which ensures that a column cannot have a null value. That means if suppose you are specifying not null constraint into some particular column, how we can apply this particular rule or this constraint into a column, we'll be watching into some examples how we can apply those. But for now let's go through the theoretical part, that what are types which we or what are the types of rules which we can apply over any column, and those types why even it is getting used and what's their purpose is. So this not null is there for ensuring that a column cannot have a null value. Unique constant is therefore to ensure that all value in a column are unique. That means no repeated value can be existing into that particular column. It will not allow to have, suppose it is already having some value into some in that column, that again if you are trying to insert that particular value into that column, it will not allow it. It will throw you an error. After that we are having primary key constraint, which is combination of not null and unique. If you are already aware of what primary key is and what the primary key concept, so primary key is nothing but a unique identifier of all the rows. So for each of the rows there will be a unique identifier or unique ID, you may say. That particular ID is only called as primary key. That only ID is only called as primary key. So suppose if you are having 10 rows into your table, so first row is identified by 1, second row is identified by 2. So this numbering, it is called as primary key in this particular case. So that primary key constraint is basically the combination of not null and unique, because you can't leave any particular row unidentified, right? It should be identified with some unique identifier. So it can't be obviously null, it can't be all, you can't put it as null. Also that will be unique, because every row in a particular table will be unique, correct? So it will be the combination of both not null and then unique. Foreign key constraint is something which establishes the relation between the two tables. Suppose if you are aware of the foreign key concept, let me revisit that one. So foreign key is nothing but if suppose you are having a whole sales table. In that sales table there is a product ID column over there mentioned, and you are having some another column or another table which is a product table, in which there is also a product ID along with product name. Now here in the sales column you are only having product ID, not the product name. So what it will be mapped as, that this particular sales table with this product table, the product ID column is becoming the foreign key for this both of the tables. So that only we define it by having this foreign key constraint. After that, we having check constant, that if suppose if some data you are going to put it, so that data, if you want to apply some check over it, then only you want to insert it to that column. So it might be some anything, like if you want to insert some particular integer which should be greater than 5. You doesn't want to enter any integer into that column which is less than 5, then you can apply this particular check which will not allow integers below than 5. So this is check constant, and default constant is something if suppose some insertion is going on by some user, and if he is not passing any value with respect to that particular column or corresponding to that particular column, and if you are having some default constant defined over there, then those default constant will look up for the default value, that what you have given as the default. That particular default value will be put when that user will not be providing any value in that particular corresponding column. So better you will understand all these concepts with one examples. So first one, we are having not null constant, in which we can have a create table statement. Simply we are going through our same way as we are creating the table, only we are adding the constraint part this time. That means you can see over here that initially we were defining some the table like customer ID, that means column name, and then the data type. Now we are going ahead with this particular one. This is only the constraint. That means not null if we are providing it over here. That is, we are telling to the table that don't allow any customer ID to be null. Whenever they are inputting any value, there should be some not null value into this customer ID. Similarly for first name, similarly for last name. Email can be null over there. So we are not providing any constant over there. That means you are telling that it can be anything. You are not bothered for that for email or age. Moving ahead with the unique constant, as you saw here, that ensures all value that a column are unique. To be unique, you are having a unique, you may say, keyword which will identify or which will set the constant as unique. That means email is of course going to be a unique for each of the people, right? So this particular one, we are just providing unique value over here, or unique statement over here, which will allow only unique values into this email field. Similarly for primary key, just with this primary key is the keyword which we will put, then the primary key will be defined. That means employee ID is going to be primary key in this particular case. Now moving ahead with the foreign key constant. Suppose you are having two tables. I already told you the sales and product table case, correct? Here it is written department and employee table case. So in department, you are having department ID as the primary key, and for this employee table, into which we are having this department ID as int, constant FK employees department foreign key. This like this, if you will go ahead with writing this, that means you are going to tell this particular table in the employee table that this department ID is going to be the foreign key for this particular department ID into department column. So this is how we can define our foreign key. After that, we are having check constant, which is very much easy, in which what we do is check product price, right? Product price we are having is this particular one, suppose. So with this check and then price greater than 0, because price can't be less than 0. So we are just expressing this particular expression with which it will check for the value whatever coming to this price column. It is in this particular price column, it is going to be greater than 0. So this is how we are defining the constraint in this particular case. That means we are explicitly defining it. In the previous cases, what it was there, it was along with the column name. But in this particular one, we are defining explicitly. Similarly here as well, that we are defining explicitly, correct? Now in default constant, again we are having default constant as, suppose if you want to have order table, correct? Into order table, you want to have order date, which will be provided by user. If user is not providing any value against the order date, then by default it will take get date. Get date means the date which is today's date. it will take and put it into that particular column when user will not provide any data for the get date. So that was pretty much about this setting up the constraint, and it is very useful concept which you will be using on day-to-day basis. So thank you so much guys for watching the videos, and this was only a whole about this video. I will be coming up in modification of the constraint and deletion of constraint in the next video. So stay tuned to the channel. See you in the next one.